All right, and welcome back to Rabbit Red Radio, and we have the honor of speaking to probably the nicest guy and the most appreciative of his fans, star of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Mark Patton. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, Alex, how you doing? It's nice to be here.
It's great having you here. Me and my co-host Mike are very big fans of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
Hey, Mike, how you doing? Thank you so much.
I'm doing very good. Very big fans, Mark. Love the film.
Thank you. Thank you.
At 17, you were in your bedroom and you flipped a coin to determine what it would be, New York or Nashville. And it came up on tails, and it was off to New York, and you had $132 in your pocket. Can you take us to what was going on in your life at that moment when you said, I'm going to make a life-changing coin flip totally based on fate?
Sure. I can remember the moment as if it were yesterday, to be really honest with you. You guys know from my Facebook and from talking with me that, I'm a real strong advocate of, like being kind to people. And I went to high school. I was in a theater department in high school. And I also sang, from the time I was a little boy, country and western music. And I was offered a recording contract when I was 13. My father didn't want me to accept it because I would have to sing in bars, basically, and he felt I was far too young for that. But I was in school, and I think about when I was about 15, I just started hating school. I mean, I didn't want to go, I only wanted to go to the theater. I had a great teacher, and her name was Mildred Fulton. She was a theater teacher. And I went to her one day and said, I don't know what I'm going to do. Honest to God, I really don't know what I'm going to do. My grades are getting screwed up. I hate coming to school. And she just looked at me. She was this kind of old alcoholic, probably, really. And she just looked at me and she said, you know what? You're a performer. You're going to go to New York and you're going to be an actor. I was like, okay. So I went home, tossed the coin, and that was it. And somebody asked me when I was going to move. And out of the blue, I said February 18th, and it was approaching. So I had a couple of months to pull it all together and make some money. So I got a job. Of course, I spent all the money, buying new clothes to wear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, I had the airplane ticket for February 18th. By the time it was time for me to go, I had $132 and some nice clothes and a one-way plane ticket to New York, to a place I'd never been before. And as I was flying into New York, I made a promise to myself, and I'm just not BSing you here. I said, okay, well, I landed in New York at 7:30, February 18th, 1978. I said, well, I give myself 5 years, and if I don't make it in 5 years, then I'll go home. I opened on Broadway and come back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, on February 18th, 1982, which was 5 years to the day that I had moved there. And I had arrived in New York at 7:30, and when you have an opening night on Broadway, the curtain goes up at 6:30. So I made my big debut an hour before my 5-year limit was up.
Oh, wow.
So I figured, that was really kind of, and now I have the plane, I still have the plane ticket. Okay. And of course I have my opening night program. And I have them framed together. And I always believe that's sort of the universe telling me I'd made the right choice.
Have you ever wished it landed on heads?
Sometimes, yes, actually. But if you could have do-overs, I, honest to God, wish that I had been born in 1978, as opposed to when I was born, which was 1958. Because I think I would have been totally appropriate for that time. For now, the world is a much more accepting place, blah, 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 all of those kind of things. I absolutely knew at that time when I was a kid, even, that there was no place for me in professional country and western music. There was just no place.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2 took a completely different direction from almost any horror movie and made the lead a man. Do you think that there were so many gay undertones in this film because you were essentially playing a woman's role? Do you think that was written in because of that? From my point of view, and obviously I've had a lot of time to think about this, and I've had a lot of. It's interesting to me because Nightmare on Elm Street is
two, Freddie, that really sort of historically is really almost more important than the original Nightmare on Elm Street in the sense of education and filmography. So, I mean, a lot of people do their dissertations and whatnot on this. And I think I think it literally threw everybody, because traditionally that person, that victim, would be, that turns into the fighter, which, quite honestly, in this movie, I really don't.
You don't know.
And the real fighter is the heroine, which is Kim Meyer, who plays Lisa. And she's playing a guy's role, and I'm playing a girl's role. And I think at that time, people really, really didn't know how to handle it. And also, then you have all the subtextual stuff that's going on, and that was all David Chalkin, and that was also the set designer. I knew the set designer, like, sort of socially, I guess that you would say. And many years later, he said to me, he goes, well, what did you think? Cause, I mean, there was a lot of controversy about this when the movie came out. I mean, it was big.
So people reacted to this instantly?
Almost. It was, on a certain level, it was like kind of horrific and like a nightmare come true for me.
Really?
Yeah, sure, because, it's like, I had done Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean on Raw.
Yeah, sorry.
And the film also, and had gone to the Cannes Film Festival, and we won the Cannes Film Festival and the Golden Bear. And I mean, I had a lot of notoriety from this film. And in that film, I was raped, and and so I had been, at like magazines like Advocate and all those kind of like gay magazines and whatnot. Of course, they wrote huge stories about this because Cher was in it and all that kind of stuff. And they couldn't interview me. But my agent was allow me to be interviewed by anybody for that movie, because they did not want anybody to ask me the question.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want anybody to ask me if I was gay.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you if you were out at that time you filmed part two.
Yeah, no, I mean, like in my own personal life, I don't think I've ever been in the closet, but I think professionally it was suicide.
Right.
And my first manager, who was like not really great, and to be honest with you, your first representation usually is not your best, but the lady gave, they signed me, and then she came over to my house and she said, I want to look at all your clothes so I can tell you what you can wear to audition. And I said, okay, that's what you do, And so she came over, she looked at my closet, she took all my clothes, threw them on the ground, and, sort of like butted them up in a pile, and she was like, okay, you can wear this and this and this, or leave all of this on the floor and just pick it up and put it on, because that's what normal boys do.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was like so crazy and fucked up that you just were like, but I mean, I believed her, so, I would wear dirty jeans and, whatever to, you would be in a room with a whole room full of, gay people who were all in the closet, and they would all be, terrified that somebody was going to tip the boat. And if I would be asked questions like, would it bother you to pay a gay person? I mean, would you be able to withstand the scrutiny of, people asking you this, and would it make you feel bad? And, I mean, what would your girlfriend think of it? I mean, like, crap like that. I mean, like, constantly. Mm-hmm. And I was expected to appear in public with, with a girl with me and all that kind of stuff. So when Nightmare on Elm Street came out, the underground reaction, the fan reaction, like Fangoria,
right,
like heavy-duty people, immediately react. Like, the New York Times gave this movie an incredible review. It got great reviews all over the world, actually, and I actually got really good reviews. Kim got fantastic reviews, because she looked like Meryl Streep, so we got a lot of press. Mm-hmm. And the obvious, and then the minute somebody mentions it to you, I don't know if you've had this experience, but when you really start looking at it, if somebody said, hey, if this is the homo Nightmare on Elm Street, right, that's what you used to call it. And then you start looking at it through those binoculars,
Totally different, yeah.
You absolutely start seeing it. I talked about this on Never Sleep Again, and you don't really see it all in Never Sleep Again, but with all the transcripts from it. David always denied this. He said, absolutely not. He had not a clue. Now, I know Bob Shade didn't have a clue, Bob Shea is a really good guy, and he didn't, he dressed up for the gay bar scene, and he didn't know he was in a gay bar. You know?
Right.
I mean, he was just a genuine, nice man. And also, I have to say, Jeff Scholl was the same way. I mean, there were times in the past that I thought Jack set me up a little bit, but, in retrospect, I realized Jack was just sort of a Midwestern guy, and he, had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it was he wouldn't film the party scene. I mean, they almost shut down the production because Jack wanted the party integrated.
Right.
And he wanted to have black kids, and he also wanted to have Asian. He wanted everybody at the party.
Mm-hmm.
And, the not Bob Shea so much, but the producer aspect of the thing was no, this is suburban white thing. These movies are about suburban white kids, and, even though the core audience is everybody of every race. You know what I mean? I learned that sure, because these movies are popular all over the world. And Jack was absolutely, I won't shoot this unless you have it's mixed. I just won't do it. And he threatened to quit it over it. So I don't think that he would have some hidden agenda. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But the two gay guys on the deal did, and it became a joke to them, and they thought it was really funny. And between the set designer and the writer doing this, and they thought they were very subtle, but they're both kind of not that he's not a good writer. So I do have a little bit of resentment towards him, but the pro box that everybody talks about.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the closet.
That's all the set design. Nobody ever asked, hey, do you want to put a pro box in your closet?
And then no chicks allowed sign on the door.
I don't know how sort of graphic I can be here, but
you say whatever you want.
Okay. If you go to the dream state, when the room is really hot and I'm waking up and everything's melting. Mm-hmm. Okay, if everything is built to look like a penis just ejaculated, and if all that wax is dripping down, you know what I mean, and the candles are burning over and going soft, and that's the set designer, and that was all on purpose.
I never thought of that.
No, I could give you a lot of little things that you've never thought about, but somebody else has thought of, and then they would write them on the internet, and generally they wouldn't say them in a nice way, and generally they were directed towards me, not towards the set designer, not towards the director, not towards Robert or Kim. It was always me. And it's he's such a fag, this, or he's so gay, this, or so. And you know what? I mean, I really was. So, and I was on my way to being a movie star. I was in there, and I was in the circle, and, this was dangerous stuff for me. To be outed, in that way was, I don't know, something that I really wanted to happen to me.
Yeah, not the way you wanted to do it. And see, I was thinking about, when you said you'd rather be born in 1978, I think what you're saying is, these days you can make a movie like Brokeback Mountain and nobody gets offended, but if you make a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, and it's not even flat out said, it's just a little, people are up in arms.
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't want to mess with things that people really love. Mm-hmm. And so, it's I understand the horror world very well, and I love it. And, and I've really come to embrace it in a huge way. And I also have come to embrace that, for lack of a better word, I know it sounds sort of cheesy, but I've really learned to embrace my karma too. You know what I mean? It's this, I really believe in my heart of hearts, and this is the way it's supposed to be. Because I cannot tell you the amount of people that come up to me at conventions, send me emails, to talk to me on Facebook, that, I'm very open, obviously, now about life. And, you totally saved me. Or you were like my best friend. I didn't have any friends, and I would go home, and I would put my friend on and Jessie was my friend. Guys who will come up to me, and literally and I don't want to scare any of you off, because he's come to me at a convention. But, I've had guys literally stand in front of me and dissolve into tears. And they're just, I was 15 years old and I loved you. And I couldn't tell anybody I go to other movies, and I wasn't anybody that I thought would actually love me back. But I thought with you, there was a possibility that you would. And it's like when you get into that when you're a grown-up, when you've grown up, and you're like, oh my God, that's like that. It's super heavy, and it's super rewarding, actually. And then when people talk to me about, leaving show business and all that, which I know you'll get to that, but and they say, like, I can't believe you have the courage to go ahead and live your own life. And live it, and there was like a plate full of, delicious rewards sitting there for you, but you decided to go the way. But I believe if I would have stuck it out, because I look, we're going to do this thing called the Scream Queens. I don't know if you know about that or not.
Oh yeah, I saw your Facebook post.
Yeah, and it's in Indiana. I'm going to be in Indiana in a couple of weeks, and it's Leanne and Heather and TJ and TJ Soul from
Halloween.
Yeah, and Carrie. Like, we all are in movies that the people went on to become Academy Award-winning actors, all of us. The people around us all became huge stars. I mean, it's really kind of interesting, like, say, with Nightmare on Elm Street 1. Like, Heather actually should have been the huge star of Nightmare on Elm Street 1. I mean, like, Heather should have been the one that ended that, like Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
But instead, it was Johnny Depp and Robert Englund.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, but only in this Nightmare on Elm Street series did things sort of flip. The only person that really happened in a traditional way was Patricia Arquette.
Right. Yeah.
But everybody else, sort of like the person that you expected, wasn't the one that pulled out ahead of the pack. And it's going to be with a lot of different people. And the way it sort of happened was there was a poll, and the poll was the top 100 screen queens of all time. I'm number 3.
Wow. So
Heather's number 4. Jamie Lee Curtis is number 1. Leanne is number 2, and TJ's back there in the 40s.
Your Scream, of course, you have 2 major Screams, the one where you get out of bed, and the classic, the funniest. I mean, it's the one where you're holding the glove in the shower, and you just go, It was just like the funniest thing ever, but you do deserve it.
Thank you. So by the time that came along, when I'm screaming in that shower, I've been naked in the shower for 2 days.
Wow.
With half a crew, and the crew is male and female both. So I've been in the valley. I'm over in the valley, and naked with a glove on, screaming, and with, and these are all my friends. So it'd be like you standing in front of your friends naked, screaming. Because I think the scream is funny too, and I think and I love it now.
Yeah, I love it.
I always say to people, like at a convention, because I get less and less of it now. It's funny now that I'm more back in the world. But people say, oh, you scream like a girl, or, like whatever. And I do this at conventions a lot. I have some really good gloves. And I have one particular glove that would, like, freak you out. And if you come to Indiana or someplace, you'll see it. Mine are sharp. Right. And a lot of people don't know there were, like, probably in my movie, there were about 17.
Did you keep that an original one?
Well, no, there were all different kinds. There's the original glove. There were 2 original gloves, which you would consider the Freddy.
I mean, from the set. Do you still have any of those?
I do have a lot of them from the set stuff. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I actually donated. Now, I don't have the quote-unquote Holy Grail glove. Mm-hmm. That was stolen. Some of those are monsters, and some of them are plastic when you're shooting. Some of the blades are plastic. Some are wood. They're all different. They're made out of different things for different reasons. Mm-hmm. So, like when you're shooting, like it's got to go into your body. They can't shoot razor blades into your body.
Right.
And some of them were so sharp that you shave with. And like Robert and I always chose to work with the sharp blade when we were doing close-ups because we thought we should. And he put the blade in my eye. What I do to people who ask me that is I put the blade right up in their eye and we take a picture together. And then I say, okay, now scream like a girl. I'm going to put your eye out. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm not mean about it, obviously, but I mean, it's a centimeter away from your eyeball, and it's as sharp as a needle.
Wow.
And if somebody had that in your face, and I always believed, I tried to give a really honest, true portrayal in Nightmare on Elm Street. if you were all alone in the hall with a
guy peeling his brains out of his head with a knife in your face, would you wake up and scream exactly like that?
Your balls would retreat in your body, and you would scream like a girl too. I guarantee you. You would, or like another famous movie from the '70s, you would squeal like a pig.
Right.
But I thought that really worked, but a lot of people really latched onto that, and boy, did they like run with it. Now I love it. I mean, now I think it's just fucking hysterical, and yeah. To do a movie again, I don't know if I would scream like that again. But I'm glad I did the first time, actually.
In Never Sleep Again, a lot of people were like, this in part 2. Now, this is my favorite one. It has been. It's just the one that stuck with me. It's just, I think it's the best story. I just love it. I love your acting and, Kim, everything about it is just great to me. And so I wonder, what is your personal opinion of part 2? After it was all done and everything, do you think it was one of the worst of the series?
Well, you know what? Here's what I think. And I think time will, tell the story on its one way or another. People are, when it comes to opinions, people are very strange. They a lot of people want to agree with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And Prince's Revenge in Europe is huge. I mean, I can't tell you how huge it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go to Germany every week if I wanted to. I'm going to London. I'm going to Scotland. I'm going to Paris. And my signature sells for €65, which is about $100.
What?
And I have people who have shrines built to me, and they love Nightmare on Elm Street too. And they love it so much because they're like, because you know all these conversations, but it's the last time Freddy's really Freddy.
Right.
He's not funny.
Right. Yeah.
It's not overplayed. It's like all that kind of stuff. And I think that, the sequel was made very quickly to make money. And everybody talked about the rules, but the rules weren't set yet. Most people never wanted to disagree with Wes. And it's like sort of whatever Wes Craven said, that was what went. But you have to sort of put it in context. Now, I like Wes a lot. I know his daughter, and I like her, and I respect him tremendously. But the thing is, Wes didn't want a sequel at all.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want a franchise. He didn't want any of it. He wanted there to be Nightmare on Elm Street, and that was it. So he walked away from the table. So he's not going to really like anything, honestly, about the movie, and which is okay. I mean, I screen tested for Johnny Depp's part in part 1,
right.
So I knew Wes in that way, and I had gone that far with him, so I know that he didn't dislike me. You know what I mean? Because it came really basically down to Johnny Depp or I, or me. But I think that was a political thing inside of that whole deal. And I think when, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 made a lot of money, and it still makes a lot of money.
It made more than the first one.
Oh, God, yeah. It still makes more than the first one. And you'll see when the Blu-ray comes out that it'll make more than the original one did.
And it has the part 3 with it, so it's going to make a ton.
Well, that sort of kills my theorem. But if it were just alone, if it were standalone, I think the reason that they did 2 and 3 together is because they were afraid 2 wouldn't sell.
That's exactly what I said to everybody.
But I think they played their cards wrong, and I also think that Warner Brothers now is like sort of changing their tune because they in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, the new Nightmare, they were going to move over part 2 completely and move directly into part 3. And just pretend that part 2 never happened. And that has recently changed. And I really believe that it changed because of Never Sleep Again and the reaction from, the community, because people pay attention, Hollywood people pay attention to what's going on Facebook, what's going on everywhere. It's like I have 4,000 dedicated users on Facebook, and I keep it at 4,000 because that's where I want to be. I don't want to be at 100,000, which I could be, because I don't invite people in. I mean, you really sort of have to come to me and there's going to be a reason my Facebook is going to get bigger soon. But I like to answer everybody, and I do, and I think you know that. I mean,
just like I said in the intro, you answer everybody on Facebook.
I do. If you send me an email, you get a reply. If you post something, you get a reply. And it's not just there's not somebody else hitting the button. like, and you know, like my personality is really starting to shine through there, and I have a blast. I mean, I never had a Facebook page before. This was set up for me by Never Sleep Again. I didn't know Nightmare on Elm Street was popular in the way that it is. I mean, I knew I got checked.
Yeah, well, that was my next question. Like, what after you left, because of like you even passed up acting, you gave up on your whole dream in life. So, what made you embrace this? The movie that did it to you. What made you embrace that 25 years later?
Well, I live, as you guys know, I live in Mexico, and I was pretty far down in Mexico. I've had a very successful life, okay, financially and emotionally and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, good.
You know, I went on to build houses and design them. I'm an artist and a painter, and I came down to Mexico and I became satisfied. I lived in New York and Palm Beach, Florida, and I was just really surrounded by people that worked for, like uber wealthy people. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it was very funny because I could be sitting with the head of a Fortune 500 company. I mean, literally somebody that was worth $100 million and more than $100 million. And literally about 3 months into the job where I'm like doing their house, or there would come a sheepish moment where they would say, you know what, my grandchild was talking to me and they said that you are a movie star. Is that true? And because the kids will research you on the internet. Mm-hmm. And I say, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I did a couple of movies. Oh, well, here I have your videos. Can you please autograph them? And I mean, they would like humbly ask me to do this. And I have a lot of nieces and nephews. So, and my nephew Jeremy was a professional skateboarder. So, you know, it's sort of like I knew that world. The person who's the filter between me and everybody else's world at this point is my sister-in-law. And my sister-in-law and I have known each other since we were like 4 years old. You know, Tommy got my telephone, because I had really purposely disappeared off the face of the earth. I mean, it was very hard to find me. It wasn't an easy task. Let's put it that way. I mean, I'm not listed with the Screen Actors Guild, Actors Equity. There's no agent affiliation. There's no telephone numbers. There's no nothing. It all leads to the blank wall. And the people from Never Sleep Again looked for me for 2 years. I'm not on the video. I'm not on the commentary for the first one because I don't think they really tried to find me. I mean, they half-heartedly tried to find me. Yeah. But they didn't. And so, you know, they kept calling my sister-in-law, and finally my sister-in-law, Cheryl, said, you know, she called me in Mexico, and she said, you know what, these people are really, really nice. And I just think you know, this one time I think you should, you know, give them the courtesy of, you know, calling them back. Because they're really nice, and they've never been anything nice, and they really want to talk to you. So I called them, and they told me what was going down, and I talked to Tommy on the telephone, and I said, well, these are my conditions, you know. It's like I'm not going to BS anything for you. So if I'm going to say whatever I want to say, and I'm going to say it exactly the way that I want to say it, and if you're trying to move this in any kind of direction, then, you know, I'm not the person for you. And they were like, no, we're big fans, and this is it. And I said, okay. They flew Hector, a partner, and I to Los Angeles 3 days later, and I shot the documentary, never dreaming what was going to happen next. It's like they were like, well, do you want to build, you know, and let us build you a Facebook page so that we can. And so I find that Re-Evolution, which is a group of people that move actors around for conventions and whatnot, and they put me a Facebook page up, and the next day I had 1,000 people on Facebook. And then the video, and then the DVD came out.
The rest is history.
Yeah, well, almost everybody's changed their opinion, and it's about what. You know, now David's like, oh, yeah. I mean, because originally in Never Sleep Again, David says no, that he did not know. Yeah. And he says, oh, I don't know. But then they filmed me, and then they brought him back in, and they played the film part. And, I mean, you know, like sort of like in an old-fashioned Western kind of, like I sort of called him out on the carpet. And I said, this is bullshit. Like, why don't you, admit after all of this time you knew what you were doing? I know you knew what you were doing because your friend told me. The set designer told me. So you guys used to go back and forth, set up scenes where I didn't have my clothes on, blah, 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 blah. And I just said all of this, and then so, the guys from Never Sleep Again, they just played in the film. And that's when he said, oh, you know what, I'm sorry, it was, now a different time, and yes, it's time to admit that this is different. But before, he didn't.
Here's a question that I'm going to try to get in your headspace here, and I want to know if, do you feel that your sexuality alienated you as a person? Like, I saw a picture of a guy that held up a T-shirt on Facebook and said Jessie's a homo and stuff like that. Like, do you ever wish that people would just think of you as Mark the actor from Nightmare on Elm Street instead of Mark the gay guy from Nightmare on Elm Street? Like, do you ever wish that wasn't always tied in? Like, you could just be yourself and you didn't always have to associate your sexuality?
Yeah. And if I would have chosen a career in acting, you know what I mean, to continue in that vein,
yeah.
I'm not outing anybody or anything, but, that's the classic example of that is Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey won't talk about anything. And there's a reason he doesn't talk about his personal life, because he doesn't want his personal life to interfere with what he does as an actor.
Right.
And I totally respect that. A lot of people don't. They're like, well, you should, you have to talk about this and you have to talk about that. And we all need to do this. And a lot of people make the decision for you, which I'm honestly 110% against. I don't believe anybody should ever out anybody who doesn't want to be out. You know what I mean? If you want to be, if you want to live in a closet, I mean, everybody knows, the name, that there's a certain percent of the population that thinks he's gay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And, probably 50% of them are.
Yeah.
But when you have $1 billion, like you're running $1 billion train, or you're worth that amount of money to a movie studio, there are a lot of people telling you things that are probably not in your best interest, but you're a commodity at that point. You're also sort of like an animal because you're hunted constantly.
Yeah.
Now, the paparazzi and the internet, no room safe. I mean, it's not safe for kids anymore to have sex in the bedroom because somebody may have an infrared camera.
Mm-hmm.
The room when you're being filmed in your own internet before you know it. You know what I mean? And if you're a normal person, now up the ante on that, and you're a movie star, and you're in the closet, and you don't want anybody to have proof that you're gay. I mean, it makes for a pretty schizophrenic. If you're really, really crazy.
Exactly.
So I literally say, what, it's okay. Now, I also know I didn't choose that life. So, and when I picked up the mantle again, I decided to do what I'm doing now, talking to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
My roots have changed, I have to say, over the course of, the last couple of years. But I have a quote, and I don't know where I got it from, but I love it. And it's like, you take the bricks that people throw at you and you build a firm foundation with it. And so those T-shirts are all from me.
Yeah.
Those T-shirts come from me. And where the quotes come from are from IMDb.
Oh.
And they're all said by real people. And all the money goes to the Trevor Foundation. But I sell them at conventions, and then the money goes to the Trevor Foundation. And, those T-shirts are all over the world. And they're generally things that people, in a certain way, I just feel like, you know what, I took my own power back. It's
right.
So what? You think Scream Like a Girl is funny? Here, I can really make it funny. You think I scream like a girl? I can be a scream queen. And I guarantee you in Indiana on 12:30 on Saturday, you won't be able to get in there.
Wow.
And if you notice on the picture, the person who's the lead in the picture, and I'm the draw, and it's going to be a blast because we're going to talk about, obviously we're going to talk about our film, and we're going to have a lot of fun because we've talked about it a little bit, and, but the very people that I used to be afraid of, the most afraid of, are the people that I kind of love the most now, and really sort of love me the most. It's I can't tell you how many, guys who would scare me to death, at another time in my life, come to me like, hey, we love you, man, don't let anybody fuck with you, you're the real deal, I love Jessie, these guys are married. I mean, they're hardcore hardcore metalhead horror fan.
Well, before we go, can you tell us a little bit about the documentary you're doing called There in No Jessie?
The line is from where, it's Freddie's line, and it's where he says, yeah, I'm Jessie now. And, Heather, her new documentary, which she just finished, is called I Am Nancy.
Right.
And it's about how fans really identify with Nancy and all that kind of stuff. And it's really, really good. She did a great job. My documentary is something completely and utterly different. It really truly is about Nightmare on Elm Street. It's not just but it's like why people like Jessie disappear. I am filming, we've already filmed a lot, but I'm going to be on every continent in the world. We're going to choose one person from each continent. I've already done 2 continents. And it's about their Jessie. And I have a Russian kid already that we've already done. It's going to blow your mind when he talks about his life and how he just decided to just disappear. And then we're taking Nightmare on Elm Street from the beginning to now through the resurrection of quote unquote me into the public eye again, and how society's completely sort of changed. My niece is like, I just can't believe any of that would be a big deal. I mean, my best friends are gay, and I'm like, well, you're a boy either, so you're not.
Yeah, for some reason it's okay when girls are in society.
Right. Yeah, and also it's okay with girls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It happens between boys is a totally different thing. So anyway, that's what the documentary is about. It's very wild.
And when the release date, what do you have in mind?
We have, I think we have another 6 months seriously to complete the filming of what we need to get. Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump ahead of you, and I know we've gone on a lot longer than you anticipated.
It's been great. It's been really great interview.
Oh, thank you. I start filming a movie in September.
Yeah, Noche or something, right?
Yes, it's called Noche, and I start filming it on September 19th. It was written for me when I wasn't in the business. The person had loved Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and the movie is basically about a guy who can't go to sleep. And he is, he becomes insane. It's a thriller. The first part filmed in Berlin. He runs from Berlin to Bosnia, and to a small town in Bosnia. And it's his past that's following him, but it's very dark. It's very scary, the script. It's very small. And it's so weird because the people, they can't believe I'm doing it. I mean, they absolutely cannot believe I'm making this movie.
Yeah.
And, we signed the contract, and they gave me money, and it's all done.
Wow.
And, and it's so strange to me that I would run away. That's why I'm kind of a strong believer in fate or whatever. I ran away. I made myself very, very difficult at the time. And I moved to a small town in Mexico where I work with poor people and artists. And my entry back into the world of the cinema, it came to me here. And somebody just served it up to me on a silver platter. So I think I would be stupid. And I think I would be not grateful kind of person if I didn't just go ahead and do that movie. When I met the guy, they were like, I can't believe this is happening, And I was like, on a certain level, I can't believe it's happening either. But it is happening. And, in 2 weeks, I'm going to Indianapolis, and I can't believe, something I did 28 years ago. You and I are sitting here halfway around the world from each other, having this conversation, but it's happening, and it's all gathering steam. So,
dude, I can't believe it. Sometimes I was sitting here, I'm like, I can't believe I'm just envisioning you through the scenes of this movie, and I'm like, I'm talking to this guy. It's like
my voice is very distinct, isn't it? I mean, most people recognize me by my voice. And also, I've lost 20 pounds since Never Speak Again.
Oh, wow.
Well, first of all, I didn't know I gained 20 pounds.
It's not happening, right?
It just sort of happens in life. And, and it's like, and I hadn't certainly been on camera in a long time. And boy, those first photos that they shot out, of me and Heather together, I was like, oh my God, who is that person? That can't be me. So anyway, I lost a lot of weight, and I looked, amazingly, I just sort of shed something, and I looked like myself. And yeah, so it's fun. So when people see me at the conventions, they're like, everybody's like, oh my God,
He's back.
You're back. Yes, that's exactly it. And I am back, actually.
Well, he's back. So everybody look for Mark Patton at the conventions he spoke of and for Noche, and there is no Jessie. I just want to thank you so much for coming on. It was a really great interview and really great talking to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I had a blast. And I will say this before I go. It's a total pleasure.
It was great, man.
I like you. And thank you for asking me to do this.
Yeah, it was really an honor. Thank you so much.